They told you everything was waiting for you. They told you everything was set in stone. But now you're feeling like a different ending. Sometimes you gotta find it on your own. So, y'all remember Monster High, the Mattel doll line that shook everything up for being edgy and overall slay as hell? Well, it has an overlooked little sister, Ever After High. As where in Monster High, it was about the sons and daughters of famous monsters, myths, and legends, I guess. I don't know, it got vague the longer it went on.
Avia, trotter, bird, and horse.
Ever After High instead focused on the sons and daughters of famous fairy tale characters. I was never really a fan of Monster High when I was a kid, but Ever After was my absolute jam. When it was added to Netflix, that was all she wrote. I've had this idea for a really long time, before I even started doing consistent uploads of quality. Today, I will be revisiting the world of Ever After High and redesigning its 2. It says 4, but I decided to just not do that. We're gonna do another video. It's 2 main protagonists, as well as doing a bit of retrospection and maybe rewriting a little too. No more dallying. Let's get into our first character.
I am Raven Queen, and I'm going to write my own destiny. My happily ever after starts now.
Raven Queen is the daughter of the Evil Queen and the main protagonist of the series. Super random, unnecessary tangent, but I have to say this. Raven Queen rhymes with Jason Dean. So every time I say Jason Dean, I immediately say daughter of the Evil Queen, because this show is so ingrained in my mind. Raven Queen is the main character because she's kind of like the catalyst of the philosophical hoo-ha the show gets into that both makes no sense and is also very interesting at the same time. But we'll get into that in a second. As I said, I've had this idea for a while, so I actually took a swing at this at an earlier date. The first design kind of sucks and does not feel like Raven at all.
Where's the flavor? Where's the flavor in this?
When I first approached this, my main goal was to make the designs less complicated and clunky, and when I tried that, I just ended up with a kind of lackluster design. So when I revisited it, I wanted to add a bit of flair. The biggest contributor to that is this hooded cape I gave her. I gave her this for 2 main reasons. A, Raven is introverted and kind of kept to herself, mostly because everyone thinks she's evil. And in general, she prefers to be alone and is a bit awkward. I think the hood is like a great way to like hide from people. I would know, is it ultimate high school? And also B, the whole thing serves to make her look more evil and mysterious to align with people's preconceived notions about her in relation to her mother. Speaking of which, you will notice color-wise, my Raven is very different from the original. I mean her outfit and hair. I don't want that to be seen as thinly veiled racism. Anyway, I find it really strange how close Raven's design / color is to her mother's. The whole point of the story is how much she isn't and like doesn't want to be like her mother. Why would she make explicit choices that make her resemble her mother? Like when Apple designs Raven's half of the room without Raven knowing, she gets upset because of how evil and like Evil Queen adjacent it is, but it also matches her aesthetic perfectly. Like what? So I in general wanted to go for a more rebellious / punk look rather than goth, because that aligns better with her personality and journey throughout the show. And as with color, I kept all of the colors very close to purple, but used purple itself sparingly, seeing as it's her mother's main color. I only used purple twice in 2 things Raven herself has no control over: her amulet that like her magic comes from, and her eyes. But the reason I kept all the colors close to purple is because it's kind of this whole thing throughout the show is like, will she or won't she end up like her mother? Now back to the plot. If you've never seen Ever After High, hey, thanks for being here. I hope you enjoy my inane ramblings about something you aren't familiar with. And also, let me explain a little. Basically, the way the show works is that there are lineages of fairy tale characters that go to this school and then live out their predetermined destinies. On a holiday known as Legacy Day, all the students of Ever After High have to sign a book known as the Storybook of Legends, basically declaring that they will do exactly what their parents did and live the exact same life their parents did. And the plot gets started because Raven is like, I don't want to do that because, like, A, I'm not evil, and B, I don't want to be miserable and imprisoned for most of my life for doing something I didn't want to do. See, this is really interesting and opens up really interesting character arcs, especially for a character we'll get into in the next video. But also, this lore doesn't make a sense. Keep in mind, I've never read any of the books or anything. I'm strictly talking about the Netflix series. Anyway, my main problem with the lore is why? What does it do for every person with a certain last name to do the same thing for generations? It's even a part of the story that the student's parents also went to Ever After High, which doesn't make any goddamn sense. The Evil Queen and Snow White were rivals in high school, but the Evil Queen is literally Snow White's stepmother? Who are the first people who became the people the stories are about? How long has this been happening? And I'm made to believe Raven is the first person ever who doesn't want to sign the book? And what about siblings? Like, in the show, there are these 3 siblings that are all of charming lineage, but only one of them gets the destiny of being the person who kisses Snow White's daughter and, like, wakes them and whatever. Like, what do the other 2 do? They're just destiny-less? Now, don't take me thinking the lore is stupid as saying it's not effective. This show, its characters, its conflicts, and all the BS is very compelling. They use the bullshit book to ask... Sorry, I stuttered. To ask really interesting questions about destiny, family, being true to yourself, and friendship, and stuff. In the case of Raven, her not signing the book means that consequently Applewhite, who is Snow White's daughter, can't get her happy ending. And Apple is Raven's friend. This conflict is long-standing, creates really interesting arcs and growth for both characters throughout the series. But very quickly as I finish up, back to the design. I really like Raven's spike chrome, but I had to get rid of it for the hood to work. I gave Raven this white feather print on the inside of her cape because I otherwise completely got rid of her the feather thing. I have thing highlighted because I was supposed to think of the word that I wanted here, but I can't think of it. It's like homage, kind of like theming, but there's a word and I can't remember it. It was driving me crazy while I was writing the script and I still can't remember it. Feather thing. Because I think it looks stupid and more goth. But her name is Raven, so I had to keep it in. Speaking of which, completely accidentally, she did end up looking a bit like Raven from Teen Titans. I started rewatching the show in the time since I started writing the script, and let me say, while I like Raven a lot, it takes a while for her story to get actually interesting. This is in part because the show got monumentally better over time. Like, literally the first season, I felt like I was forcing myself to watch. But anyway. Raven kind of just out of nowhere, unprovoked, decides she doesn't want to sign the book, and really funny melodrama occurs.
I have to go.
I think it would have been stronger character writing if she had something she was passionate about and wanted to do instead that led her to not wanting to sign the book. I personally think poetry would work really well in that place. No, sorry, that's not what that says. I personally think poetry would work well in that place because she has such a complex life with a complicated family structure and a lot of social problems. As well as being very creative, I think her writing poems would have made sense for her, and I don't know. It just would have been cool to see. Well, that's it for Raven. I love her and I love her design, but we spent too long on it. Let's move on to the next character.
I am Applewhite, daughter of Snow White, and I am ready to pledge my destiny.
Applewhite, daughter of Snow White, who acts as a secondary protagonist with some of the stories placing her in the center of the conflict. She's also probably the most disliked character ever after. Do you see what I did there? It doesn't work as well. Okay, sorry to compare because there's no reason to, but Ever After High is an immediate successor of Monster High because they wanted to, no, the 10 minutes are up and I'm in the middle of a tangent. Mattel wanted to recreate the success of Monster High. So, they just followed basically the same exact formula they did with Monster High. So, basically, my point is, in Monster High, they do these really witty, kind of witty, monster puns, and they tried really, really hard to do the same thing in Ever After High. Don't get me wrong, I get why, but I honestly applaud the showrunners for how complex and layered they made Apple. They could have taken the boring, generic Mean Girl route, but they didn't. They made Apple sympathetic by making it clear she really cares for all of her friends and wants the best for them. But because of how she was raised, it takes her a while to recognize that sometimes sticking to the way things are and the way they always have been isn't always the best solution. You know, when I was rambling to my mother about Ever After High, she said it sounded like an allegory for racism, and I did not know what she meant, but I'm starting to get it. Anyway, let's talk about this design. I really love Apple's original design. I love the colors and how regal the whole thing is. What I was going for in the redesign was to make Apple look more friendly in a way. To me, that's what makes Apple more likable than your average uptight rich mean girl character, is that she is genuinely very naive and kind. She just has a very narrow worldview that her arc works to properly shatter. So yeah, I thought her design could be a bit more conducive to that. I don't know how to use the word conducive. Because as I said, her original design is very regal, very wealthy. It makes her seem unapproachable, and that's not really the vibe to me. I tried to keep all the colors red, pastel yellow, and white because they look like, you know, an apple. Speaking of which, each Ever After High character has like a few symbols you can use in patterns and such, but Apple really only has apples. Anyway, I kept her bow crown thing pretty much the same and opted to put her hair in a bun instead of leaving it out. Hair that's down in character designs, to me at least, represents a certain amount of freedom and flexibility in general. Apple is very uptight, so I thought her hair should be too. It's also a rounder shape for a few reasons. I didn't write this down, so I'm going off the dome right here, but I realized this with Raven's design, that it's a lot of spiky, pointy edges, and I think because they are character foils and direct, I was just about to define what a character foil is. Character foils, I thought it would be cool if Apple had a rounder design in comparison to all the spiky, sharp shapes on Raven. Then also, to keep with like the Apple thing in general, and also as a design callback of sorts to a character I design in another video that I am just beaming to talk about. You know, while we're on Apple, I want to talk a little on something else in Ever After High that pisses me off but doesn't actually spawn anything interesting in the story. Royals and Rebels. I think I said it well in this Instagram comment. Put it on the screen. Now you may be thinking that, oh, rebels are the people that don't want to follow their predetermined destiny, right? Wrong. They were using these terms before Raven made not following your fairy tale footsteps an option. A massive part of Apple's character towards the beginning is how important the two groups being separate is to her, and it's like this big deal when this royal is dating a rebel, but like, why? What does it mean? What does it matter? Because of her Monster High video, I know Mattel allegedly took some inspiration from Disney's Descendants, which was in early production whenever After came out. I'm saying this because, like, I don't like Descendants, but at least the beef between the bad kids and the royal people made sense and had a very simple explanation in the lore. Like a lot of the problems present in the beginning of the show, the royals rebels thing goes away. Still, it bugs me. I guess this scene kind of defined it.
We have happily ever afters. You don't.
While I favor the first theme song to the second one, I understand why after they kind of got rid of the royal rebel thing, why a song built around the concept is obsolete. I really don't have that much else to say about Apple. I think she's a well-done character, and I think she deserves the hate she gets, but I'm really happy with how they handle her in the show, especially how strong her friendship with Raven ends up being. Oh, and if you're one of those Ever After High fans that likes to deny that this was gay, don't talk to me, okay? The whole darling thing is something else I'd love to get into later, if this video becomes like a series. Because there are a lot of Ever After High characters, and I have a lot of ideas for pretty much everyone, so let me know if you want to... So let me know if you want me to do more of these and who you'd like me to redesign / ramble about next. That's gonna do it for this video. It was a blast. Let me know down below what you thought, and if there are any Ever After High characters you want me to redesign next. I'd like to give a shout out to Izzy's, because her Monster High video kind of reignited my passion to do this video. It's really good. I'll link it down below. And also a shout out to the Instagram account Ever After High Confesses, because I used it as a source many times, just on how people interpreted things and such. You should definitely follow them. And while you're there following them, follow me too. I post all my art on Instagram, and I also have commissions open. And if you don't want to miss the next video where I redesign Briar and Maddie, I'd recommend subscribing. Okay, bye-bye!